So a brand new PlayStation 5 game developed specifically for that console that retails for $70 no less, runs at 1080p upscaled to less than 4K, and dips down to 45 frames per second when the action gets steamy. Let's talk about it. Alrighty guys, so today we're talking about Returnal, which I picked up a few days ago. I've been playing quite a bit of it, and so far I'm actually really enjoying it, which is surprising because roguelikes really isn't my cup of cum, and it's just not really my forte. I usually don't enjoy roguelikes, but I am really enjoying this game. So sharing my screen over here, I have an article pulled up. This will be cited or sourced down there in the description below, as I do anytime I cover any kind of news in the gaming community or industry, and this is from Twisted Voxel. And this video over here is from VG, their YouTube channel, where they do some frame rate testing. I will be playing footage of that on screen here. And basically what they discovered is that this brand new game, which retails for $70, that is developed exclusively for the PlayStation 5, meaning it doesn't play on the PS4 Pro, it doesn't play on PC, it is specifically for this hardware, for this rig, if you will, for the components inside of the PlayStation 5, so it should be, in essence, completely optimized, especially as it is a brand new title. It is an IP. It is specific to the Sony PlayStation 5, but it runs at 1080p upscaled to 1620, so it's not even hitting a full 4K, and the action is supposed to be locked at 60 frames per second. However, when it's very cluttered, there's a lot happening on screen, which is all the time. There's constant bukkake of plasma. There's shit flying all over the place, like not literal feces, but there's always plasma effects going on and lasers and energy giblets flying at your chin and whatnot. There's constant action on the screen, and when there is a lot going on, several enemies on screen, a lot of particle effects and whatnot, it does dip down into the 50s and at some points as low as 45 frames per second. Now, I will say, if I hadn't read this article and hadn't watched this graphical test here, this technical demo, I wouldn't have known that it's not running at native 4K because it looked very, very good on my 4K display. However, I did notice the frame rate dips when there's a lot going on screen, which is pretty frequent in this game. It does dip down noticeably, and now it's nice to be able to put an actual number to it, 45 frames per second. To me, it just looked like it was dipping down. I knew it wasn't 60. It was not a capped, smooth, steady, consistent 60, and now it's good to know what it is, 45. What is a little bit surprising, though, is since it is upscaled from 1080p, that they're not hitting 4K. They're hitting 1620, which kind of shows the power ceiling, the limitations of the PlayStation 5. Now, that makes sense considering the consoles, the flagship consoles, the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X are both less powerful graphically than a 2080 Ti, which is last generation cards from NVIDIA. You compare them to a 3080, you can't. There is no comparison there. But on the flip side of that token there, if you want to look at the rump or the tuchus of that coin, you can't build a $500 PC that'll perform like a PS5 or Series X, and you can't build a $300 PC that will perform like an Xbox Series S. But the performance ceiling is so high with PC, that's where you see this major graphical difference, and that's where I have to correct a lot of people when I hear them saying things like, oh, well, the new consoles are just as powerful as a PC. Yeah, a PC in their price bracket, but the performance ceiling is so much higher on PC that if price really isn't an option and you can get your hands on these components, which are very sought after thanks to miners and whatnot, you could literally build a PC with like dual 3090s, an overclocked i9 water cooled and like 128 gigs of RAM, and you could literally smash the nipples together of the Series X and PlayStation 5 and it still wouldn't even be nipping at the heels of that PC. But again, on the flip side, price, big major issue. And these consoles are great. Am I saying these consoles are bad or anything? Absolutely not. I own both the PS5 and the Xbox Series S. I have played extensively on the Series X. Multiple of my friends have them, and I have plenty of time behind the sticks of the Series X. They're both great consoles. They both stimulate me in the nether regions, and both of them have given me several gamer-gasms over the last few months. But what I will say, it is pretty interesting that we are kind of already hitting a performance ceiling here with the PlayStation 5. Now, granted, this is an early life cycle game. If we look back to the PlayStation 3, the PS4, launch games didn't look or perform that great, and then if you look at the titles that were dropped at the ass end of the PlayStation 4's life cycle, for example, Ghost of Tsushima and Last of Us 2, they were graphically stunning and ran pretty fluidly with their frame rate. So obviously developers over time are going to get more comfortable working with the hardware on board the PlayStation 5 and digital PS5, which are virtually identical. It's just one's missing an optical ultra Blu-ray player. But it doesn't really worry me, especially because this game looks and feels really good. I mean, the frame rate does dip at certain times, but that didn't really, it wasn't to the point to where it ruined my playthrough or anything like that. It just, you could tell it was there. And graphically, it looked fantastic. This game looks beautiful. I never once was like, this is 1080p. Upscaled to 1620. I can tell. Like, I couldn't tell a difference. I thought it was an upscaled 4K 60 game, but granted, I'm looking at about 1620 45. Those numbers aren't stellar. Those are rookie numbers. We need to pump those up, obviously, but the game still plays good. It's still fun. I'm not going to give away too much about this game, as in about 2 to 3 days, I will be giving my full comprehensive review right here on this channel, so make sure you subscribe so you do not miss that. When that drops, that is going to be a hot sticky banger, as the kids say, because there's a lot to cover about this game. Like I mentioned, I'm not really big into roguelikes, but this game was actually, thus far, quite enjoyable and touched me in some crevices, some nooks and crannies that I didn't even know I had, so that's awesome. That is going to do it, guys. Drop in the comment section below your opinion of this here debacle, or pickle, if you even want to call it that. It's a pickled cucumber in a jar, in a mason jar, but it's not really a huge deal, in my opinion. IMO, it's not that big of a deal, but it is worth sharing with you guys, especially if you're PS5 owners and you are excited, considering this is pretty much the only PlayStation 5 exclusive we have right now. Well, there's like Godfall and Miles Morales. Well, Miles Morales is on PS4, and yeah. You got Astro's Playroom, that's baked on the PS5, that's pretty good. And you got Sackboy. Whoa, no, that's on PS4 too. All right, that is going to do it, guys. Subscribe for more content like this. I cover a ton of news in the gaming community and industry, as well as tutorials helping you get set up streaming and YouTubing, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.